One of the worst kept secrets during this transfer window has just been exposed. Real Madrid have finally got the left back that they've been twerking for. Alvaro Carreras from Benfica is our fourth signing of the summer. And I told you guys that this past season was so shit that the club had no choice but to respond in this summer window. I knew that we were going to be moving aggressive. I knew that there were going to be a handful of players coming in. And that's exactly what we've seen so far. Florentino Perez took the last 9 months real personal. When you get embarrassed and destroyed by Barcelona in every El Clasico, when you lose to those scrubs in 2 finals, when you get embarrassed by Arsenal, absolutely smoked in the Champions League quarterfinals, yeah, you gotta respond. And that's exactly what we've done. New manager with Xabi Alonso. We've signed Trent Alexander-Arnold. We've brought in Dean Howson. Franco Mastuano is joining. And now Alvaro Carreras. And I don't think we're done making signings either. I still predict 2 more players to join the club before next season starts off, or at least before the end of the transfer window. But it's just not been a good season at all. And I'm glad that it's finally over. Is it a surprise that after PSG absolutely destroy us in the Club World Cup semifinals that now we announced this signing? I think there's a bit of PR going because the Real Madrid board know how pissed off the fans are. Because, again, it's been a very bad season. It was a humiliation ritual for us to witness what we had to go through. Now, if you guys have watched my channel, then you would have heard me say multiple times, I'm not the biggest fan of Alvaro Carreras. I don't understand why the club only chose to focus on him. I think there was a couple other left backs that would have been a better signing than him. But I understand why the club have gone in for him. But I was very adamant before the Club World Cup, and then especially once Benfica got knocked out. I didn't think Real Madrid were going to pay the money that they wanted. But it turns out we did. We got to get into all this because we do have the payment details and we also have the contract details of which he is going to be signing. Now, Benfica are a very good selling club, and I'll tell you this right now. It looks like they have fleeced Real Madrid as far as this deal is concerned with the price that we're going to be paying for him. But I want you guys to get in the comment section and let me know what you think. Is Alvaro Carreras a good deal or not? We know that the left back position needed to be reinforced. Mendy cannot stay fit to save his life. And Fran Garcia, he's looked really good in that Club World Cup underneath Xabi Alonso as a wingback. But is he good enough to be starting for Real Madrid week in, week out? I think a majority of us don't believe he's of that quality. So I need you guys to get in the comment section. Like I said, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those post notifications. Let's get into this Fabrizio Romano tweet. He says, Alvaro Carreras to Real Madrid. Here we go. Verbal agreement in place between Real and Benfica. Real Madrid negotiated to pay 50 million euros in multiple installments instead of a one-time payment. As soon as Manchester United confirm they don't want to activate his buyback clause, Alvaro will travel. Now, he gave us a lot of information, and I want to focus on that last part first. Because if we're waiting on Manchester United to confirm that they're not going to activate his buyback clause, then how is this deal here we go? What if tomorrow morning Manchester United decide to activate the 18 million buyback clause that they have? Because they're shit and they need all the talent that they can get. Manchester United just finished 15th or something like that last season. Patrick Dorgu, who they have that left wing back, is not that good. And if Alvaro Carreras is being linked with a big move to Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs on this planet, who think he's good enough to start for them, why wouldn't Manchester United then think to themselves, maybe we should bring him in? I'm just saying. I don't think Fabrizio Romano would have made this tweet, though, if Manchester United were planning on activating his buyback clause. But that is really interesting because United could potentially come in and mess this entire deal up. But I think it's ultimately going to happen, right? I don't think Alvaro Carreras would want to go back to Manchester United if he has the chance to come to Real Madrid. Like, let's just be real. Who in their right mind would pick Man United over Madrid? And if anybody's going to come in the comment section and say Lenny Yoro, I guarantee you that Lenny Yoro goes to bed every night crying in his pillow because this guy could have been starting for Real Madrid. Instead, he has to play for Manchester United, finished in the bottom half of the table, lost in a Europa League final to Tottenham, and his club is just shit. So, yeah, I think Alvaro Carreras, who's also Spanish as well, has a bit more sense. But for anybody that's a bit confused on why Manchester United are even involved, right? So for those of you who do not know, Alvaro Carreras played in Real Madrid Academy for 3 years. Then he left our academy and joined Manchester United. And then they sold him to Benfica. Now, United have a buyback clause, and they also have a sell-on clause. So either way, they're going to be involved in this transfer, whether he was coming to us or somebody else. Now, the second part that I want to talk about is the price. 50 million euros. How the hell did we agree to pay that? Because if we were going to end up paying the money that Benfica wanted, then we should have just done that before the Club World Cup. Why did we go into this tournament shorthanded at left back? Fran Garcia was the only first team available player at that position. My man had to play 90 plus minutes every single match. It would have made a lot of sense to bring Alvaro Carreras in before the tournament so that we could see him in Xabi Alonso's system. Now, unless the club, because we did make a lot of money in that tournament, I think that we made like a little under 100 million playing in the Club World Cup and advancing to the semis. Maybe they used the Club World Cup money to pay for this player. But I just don't think he's worth 50 million to begin with. But I think we have to understand who we're dealing with here. Benfica are a very good selling club. Benfica are just a red version of Dortmund, okay? Like, their main priority is making profit from the players that they develop. And they do a good job at it. Like, I thought Real Madrid were going to play hardball. We had the advantage because they didn't want to negotiate his price down before the tournament, right? And this is what pisses me off because throughout the Club World Cup, Alvaro Carreras, I believe, only played 2 games. He was suspended for the match against Bayern, and then when they went against Chelsea in the round of 16, Carreras held bench. My man didn't even play. So they didn't sell him to us just for him not to be involved in their most important game of the season. Now, some people are saying that it's because he refused to play for them because he was upset that he didn't get the move. Whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. But I thought because the player wanted this move so bad, we had the advantage. But Benfica, they don't fuck around when it comes to selling their players. Like, look at this, bro. Real quick before we even continue. Just look at the business that they've done over the years. They have absolutely fleeced the biggest teams in Europe. João Felix to Atletico Madrid, 127 million. Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea, 121 million euros. And I rate Enzo Fernandez, but he was never worth that money. João Felix at the time was never worth that money. Darwin Núñez. This guy can't score a one-on-one to save his life. 85 million to Liverpool. Look at the money that they make, bro. Look at this money. Now, they have had some good players come from their academy, to be fair. They have. Well, not their academy per se, but just they've had good talent come through their team, right? And then they sell for profit. That's what I meant to say. So, yeah, we got to realize who we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the club that one way or another, they're going to make the money that they want. And I think Alvaro Carreras should have forced this move before the tournament, right? Us not getting him in before that now looks dumb since we've just paid the release clause anyways. Now, before we even talk about the player in more depth, I do want to say that I get why Madrid are bringing him in, because the left back market is dead. And any player that we would have preferred is more than likely unrealistic, right? Like everybody would say Nuno Mendes from PSG. That would have been the perfect left back signing. It's not going to happen. Maybe Vardiol from Man City. He's a baller at left back. It's not going to happen, right? The club were not trying to spend over 100 million on this position. Now, there were two players that I would have taken over Alvaro Carreras that I think were realistic. Miles Lewis-Skelly. Before he signed that extension with Arsenal, we were linked to him. I don't understand why we didn't reach out to his team and try to negotiate a contract and then give a bid to Arsenal. I think it would have been a lot cheaper than the 50 million we paid for Carreras because he only had a year left. But no, we didn't do anything. He ends up signing a new contract. Miles Lewis-Skelly is an absolute baller. And I think he would be a much better player in Xabi Alonso's system, especially coming into that midfield as a wingback, whether he's inverting or overlapping. The second player that I would have maybe brought in over Alvaro Carreras was Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth. When we signed Dean Howson, we should have just did a double deal for Kerkez. Kerkez is arguably the best left back in the Premier League, just got a big move to Liverpool. We always take Liverpool's targets. That should have just been another one. Liverpool are our feeder club, okay? We treat them like, bro, Barcelona have La Masia, right? Arsenal have Hale End. Chelsea have Cobham. Real Madrid have Liverpool. Milos Kerkez would have been a very good signing. So I think those two players were realistic, but we didn't go for them. Alvaro Carreras was the chosen one. Now, I believe that we went in for him because he's young and he can still improve. He's Spanish as well, right? He was from our academy, played there for 3 years, so the club are very familiar with him. And I think the profile of the player does fit what Xabi Alonso was looking for. Now, when I watched Alvaro Carreras this season, the first time was against Barcelona, and he did a good job against Lamine Yamal. He actually had one of the better performances against Yamal than what I usually see, because generally, Lamine Yamal just cooks whatever fullback is in front of him. But Alvaro Carreras held his own. So that's a big positive for him, because you're going to be going against Lamine Yamal every single season for the foreseeable future. So if you can replicate that kind of performance, then, hey, look, all on board. But just in terms of like what I've seen from this guy, he's an attacking fullback, right? Overlapping, inverting, link-up play. He's very good. And we know that Xabi Alonso likes to use his fullbacks very attacking-wise. Now, is Alvaro Carreras better defensively than Fran Garcia? Yes. Is he better defensively than Ferland Mendy? No. But you could say that Carreras is like a mix of both of them, because he is very good going forward and he is solid. He's not the best defender, but he's solid defensively and he does have good work rate. Again, even though I don't rate the guy that highly, it's mostly because from what I've seen, I've just not been impressed. I've watched the guy maybe 4 times this season, and he hasn't stood out to me yet. Again, had a decent performance against Barcelona and Lamine Yamal. That's a positive. But in the Club World Cup, he was just okay. He was average, right? I think I also watched him when Benfica played, I forget which team, but it was a cup final. It was like towards the end of the season, and I tuned into it. Didn't really do anything in that. Actually, he was pretty poor in that final, if I'm not mistaken. But I get it, right? Spanish, young, does fit the profile for what Xabi Alonso is looking for. And like I said, the left back market isn't that strong at the moment. Now, I do want to show you guys another tweet from an ITK that I've been following for a while, super reliable. He comes out and says that Real Madrid are set to sign Carreras from Benfica, as revealed by Fabrizio Romano. There's a total agreement in place between Madrid and Benfica for the transfer in a deal worth 50 M's fixed to pay in installments. As informed before, total agreement in place since last month for Alvaro Carreras to sign a 6-year contract with Real Madrid until June 2031. Everything agreed. Man United will receive around 9 million euros for this deal as part of the sell-on clause in the sale of Alvaro Carreras to Benfica. Medical scheduled in the next days. Paperwork and documentations to be done tomorrow. Alvaro Carreras will be a Real Madrid player. Done deal, and let's go. So, look, our newest left back. Let's see how he does. I do believe in Xabi Alonso. And if the club have identified this guy as the player that they think can come in and help us defensively, because we needed a revolution at the club. 3 of our 4 signings are in that back line. And I think we are going to make a couple more signings before this window closes as well. But like I said, man, get in the comment section. Talk to me about Alvaro Carreras, right? Do you rate this player a lot higher than I do? Or are you a bit reserved? I mean, like, the guy looks like fucking Lucas Vasquez with a blowout, okay? He looked like Lucas Vasquez if Lucas Vasquez was 19 years old. This is what I'm getting. Nah. Let me stop. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on those post notifications. Holla Madrid!